Good morning, Liberty Park Eagles. Show me time. Oh my goodness, look at this. I think this is going to be our best audience yet. You can put your hands down. Good morning and welcome to JA Hispanic Career Speaker event. My name is Erica Henn and I am so excited to be with you this morning. Raise your hand if you've given some thought into what you want to be when you get older. Okay, so we have a couple people that have given thoughts to that. When I was little, I wanted to be a teacher. Any teachers in the house? Police officers, nurses, doctors, construction workers. Oh my goodness, so many possibilities out there for you. Has anybody ever thought about being a newscaster and working on the news and being on a TV? Oh, we have a couple. So with me today, I have a good friend of mine, and she is here to tell you a little bit about herself and the work that she does. So let's go ahead and give Miss Stefany Valderrama a warm Liberty Park welcome.
Buenos dias. How's everyone doing this morning? Yes. Happy day. It's almost the weekend, right? Yes. Anyone have any fun weekend plans? Yeah, just yell them out. What are you guys doing? Go to the park? Me too. Oh, we have a soccer game. Okay. And you go to the ball. Well, my name is Stefany Valderrama, and I work for CBS12. Does anyone watch the news here? Raise your hand if you watch the news. Wow, a lot of you guys watch the news. Yes? I was born in Panama, that's in Central America, and I lived there till I was about like 7 or 8 years old. And then I moved to Puerto Rico, and I lived there till I was like 9 or 10. And then I finally moved to America when I was about 11 years old. And we moved around a lot because of my dad's job. So you guys are all fourth graders, right? Yes. So when I was in fourth grade, this is going to be hard to believe, but I loved writing. Does anyone like writing? Okay, a lot of people. And I should have known then that I was probably going to be a journalist because in addition to loving to write, that was like my favorite class in school, I also enjoyed asking a lot of questions. Does anyone always have to ask questions? You have to know everything about everything, right? That's so important. Never stop asking questions. And when I was in fourth grade, I remember my dad actually bought me this book. It's called Do Penguins Have Knees? Has anyone heard of that book? Maybe not. Well, do you think that penguins have knees? No. They do have knees. And I read that book because I always asked my dad so many questions all the time. So he got me this book and it answered a lot of different questions about different things. Like anything that you could imagine, it had an answer for. Well, two of the biggest parts of my job is writing and asking questions. So in fourth grade, I feel like my parents should have put 2 and 2 together that I was going to be a journalist. So I, finished middle school, I finished high school, I went to college, I got a degree in print journalism, which is a little bit different than going to school for TV. And I got that degree in print journalism because I loved writing. So my first job I got in Augusta, Georgia, and I ended up learning everything about being on TV through that job. So I was a little bit behind than other people who got a degree in regular journalism, broadcast journalism. But I'm so grateful for that because I was able to use what I learned in school, which of course was writing and asking a lot of questions to become the journalist that I am today. And now I get to go on TV every day. And guess what? 2 of the biggest things that I do every day are writing and asking questions. So now I make a living doing 2 of the things that I love. And it all started in fourth grade. Can you believe that? It all started because I loved writing and I loved asking questions. So that's a little bit about me. One of the people that I really look up to as a journalist is actually a Hispanic reporter. She is Mexican American. Her name is Cecilia Vega. She worked for ABC News, and now she is the first Hispanic correspondent for 60 Minutes, which is so cool, right? Yes?
Correct.
Does anyone, you guys are probably too young to watch 60 Minutes, but have you heard of 60 Minutes? Yeah, okay, well, some of you have. And that's someone that I aspire to look up to, and, because it's so important to see yourself on TV and find someone who you aspire to be. And it's wonderful as a young Hispanic journalist to have someone that I look up to. So hopefully, that's whether you go with this career or a different career, you find someone that you look up to and think, like, I want to be like them. And those people have already opened doors for young Hispanic people like us. So it's like a lovely thing to be able to look up to them and know that you can achieve what they achieved. So that's a little bit about me. I do have some questions. Can I pass them around and then you guys can ask me the questions?
They wrote some of their own
Oh, okay.
questions as well. Absolutely. You want to come on up? I'll help you. Come on. We'll do it together.
You're gonna do amazing.
So loud and proud in the mic. There you go. Tell me your name.
Allison,
What is your question?
how do you know what to say? So Allison's question is, how do I know what to say? That is such a great question. So part of being a journalist is doing a lot of research. Have you guys done research for anything that you've learned in school? Yeah, I'm sure you guys have learned a lot and have done research to learn those things. So let's say the topic is about them building a new playground at a school. So I look and I research about playgrounds that were already there, or perhaps how much a playground would cost, and that's how I know what to say, is just researching that information. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Allison, thank you.
So when you research, what do you do? What tools do you use? What is
So a follow-up to that is, when I research, what tools do I use? So a big one is, for example, if I'm researching information on a playground, I typically will reach out to the school district and they'll have people who will talk to us about how much the playground costs, their plans to build it. Also, we can reach out to a construction company because they would be the ones building the playground, so they might have the plans that they could share with us, and that's how we're able to gather all of that information, and then we put a report together, and then that's what we present on TV, and that's what you guys see. We have another question.
So I figured we'd do a hot seat too. So you're our interviewer. Come on there. So this question that she has is very, very relevant to our recent news. So
Okay.
come have a seat and nice and loud. Go ahead, sit and ask her your question.
Tell me your name.
My name is Kevin.
Helen? Helen, what is your question for us this morning?
How do you know when buildings are made?
How do I know with what?
How do you know when buildings are made?
How do I know when hurricanes are made? Okay, so part of my job is to work with meteorologists. You can say. Part of my job is to work with meteorologists, and meteorologists are who does the weather. I'm sure you guys know what a meteorologist is, right? Yes. So meteorologists goes to school specifically to study weather patterns, and they're the ones who are able to work with a big organization called the National Weather Service. And the National Weather Service works with local meteorologists to forecast hurricanes. And it all comes down to how patterns of the wind and fronts move through our area. And so they're able to know and see, based on the wind patterns, how the hurricanes start forming and then which direction they go into. And that's how then the meteorologists go on TV and they share that information with all of you, which I'm sure you all followed the recent hurricane because some of it did cause some destruction to our area, correct? And a lot of us didn't have school because of the storm, right? Yes. So that's how we are able to learn about the hurricanes and then pass that information on to, everyone who needs it. Are there follow-up questions about the hurricanes over here? What is your question?
How do you know where the hurricanes go?
How do I know where the hurricane goes? Great question. So that is based off of weather patterns, and the meteorologists are able to use scientific research and information from experts at the National Weather Service, and then they're able to sort of track where they believe the hurricane goes. And they have this cone, and as when the hurricane is far away, the cone is bigger, and as the hurricane gets closer to Florida, the cone gets smaller, and that's how they're able to determine where the hurricane will land. Does that help?
I know before we got started, you spoke a little bit about the work that you had to do personally when these storms were rolling through. Can you tell the students about your experience and what your responsibilities were?
Of course. So I did cover the hurricane. One of the days, Hurricane Milton, I had to work 12 hours. Isn't that crazy? 12 hours. So you guys go to school typically for 8. So I was at work for even longer than that. So when hurricanes are approaching our area, it is really vital to our viewers that we stay on air and provide them with all of the latest information, because hurricanes can sometimes cause tornadoes. You guys know what tornadoes are, right? Yeah. So hurricanes can sometimes cause tornadoes, and that can be really dangerous for anyone in the path of a tornado, because they're so destructive and they just sort of pop up out of nowhere. So part of that is we did coverage, and I had to work for 12 hours. I talked to our meteorologists who were getting their information from the National Weather Service. And after that, I took that information and I gave it to our viewers. I presented it in a way that was easy for them to understand, because, science can sometimes be hard, right? Especially really complicated science. So I had to take that information and make it really easy for people to understand. I also had to cover some of the destruction. So tragically, a lot of people lost their homes because of the tornadoes. Did you guys see the tornadoes? Some of you did, some of you didn't. Well, it caused a lot of destruction, and that ended up destroying some people's homes, and now they can't live in it. So I also went to their homes and I talked to them, and some people don't want to talk on TV sometimes because this is the worst day of their life. They just lost their home. Like, could you imagine losing your home? So sometimes they don't want to talk on TV, but sometimes they do. And that's sort of one of the challenges of my job, is on a day like a tornado that just ripped through town and they lost their homes, they don't want to talk on TV. So we have to accept that, and we have to provide our viewers with information in a different way.
Excellent. Sounds like you were really on the front lines. We have another question over here. Nice and loud. So he wants to know, we just talked about tornadoes and destruction. He would like to know, what is the best story or the story that brought you the most joy that you've covered?
Okay, one of my favorite stories that I ever covered, and I love to talk about this one because it honestly makes me really emotional. So I had met a little girl, and her mother reached out to us because her daughter had cancer, which is really sad. But there was an opportunity for her daughter to live longer if she found a bone marrow transplant that matched with her daughter. So she reached out to us, and I did a story asking people in our community to volunteer to do a quick test. You don't even have to leave your house. They'll send you a kit to your home, and you just swab your mouth, put it in the envelope that they send you, and you send it off, and they'll call you if you're a perfect match. Well, after I did a story on the news, it aired. A couple weeks later, I got an email from the company who said that more than 1,000 people had registered to do the swab test so that they could be tested to see if they were a match for this little girl. Well, guess what happened? After they did the test, they found 3 perfect matches. They were able to do the bone marrow transplant, and now she gets to live a long and happy life, and now she gets to go to school like all of you and learn, and she got another chance at life. And that's one of my favorite stories that I've ever done. And it just goes to show you the power of news. Like, people are watching and people are answering the call for help. And because of just one person watching that story, we're now able to give someone another chance at life. Isn't that amazing?
So literally changing lives and saving lives. Come have a seat. You're in the hot seat for the next question. So our 4th graders, a big part of the work that they do is researching and reading articles and responding to articles. That's important work. So our friend here has an important question for you.
Tell me your name.
Roberto.
What is your question for me today?
What source would you recommend for education?
What source would I recommend for you guys to get information? So there are many sources. Scholarly articles, I think, are the most important, but it's also really important to make sure that the information that you're looking at is a reliable source. Have you heard of a reliable source? No. So it's information that we get directly from someone. So, for example, if I'm covering a story about the school district, I want to get reliable information from people who work in the school, whether it's a teacher, a student, the principal, because you want to make sure that the information is reliable. You don't want to get information about a school from, someone who doesn't work at the school, because then how would they know about the school, right? Does that make sense to everyone?
Wait a minute. You're telling me Facebook, TikTok, these are not reliable sources?
TikTok, Facebook, Instagram are not reliable sources. And I know you guys probably get a lot of your information from there, right? Who's on TikTok? Who's on Instagram all the time?
I mean, we can look up exercise routines, we can look up recipes, but if we're looking for credible information, probably not the best source.
You know who is a good source of information? Your teachers. Yes, they are they filled with a lot of incredible information. And if you have questions, which is one of the things that I do every single day, I would probably ask my teacher too. Does that answer your question, Roberto? Thank you.
Thanks, friend. So, fun fact for you, my first job was at a bowling alley. I did the little kid birthday parties, and when their ball got stuck, I had to go down the lane and get their ball and give it back to them. So my friend here, what's your name? Alani. Alani, what is your question?
My first job, great question. So before I got in TV news, I used to work at a store, at a little boutique by my high school. And that was my first job. So I was probably like 16 years old. So you guys are what, 8 or 9 now? So in 8 or 9 years, you guys might start getting your first job. And don't think that just because you get your first job, that's what you're going to end up doing forever. So I worked in a boutique and now I'm on TV. We all have to start somewhere. Does that answer your question? Do you have any aspirations of what you would like to go work at, maybe when you're in high school?
At your mom's salon.
Salon, ice cream shop, maybe Starbucks is a good one. I always wish that I worked at Starbucks. I never got the opportunity to. A coffee shop, those are all really good places to get, a little bit of work education in terms of a good place to start and learn those early skills.
So you don't start off working on the news.
You do not.
It doesn't really work that way. You start somewhere else and then build up to that. So my friend here has an important question for you.
Tell me your name. Daniel, what is your question for me today?
Have you ever made a mistake?
Have I ever made a mistake? I've made a lot of mistakes. But we all make mistakes, right? Everyone in this group has made a mistake at some point. But mistakes are important to make because that helps us learn. And when we make those mistakes, if we learn from those mistakes, it actually makes us a better person. So many times on TV, Sometimes I stumble when I speak. So that could be a little bit embarrassing, but guess what? Every mistake I try to learn from, and because of that, it's made me a better journalist. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Dave. Our next friend here.
What is your name? Gilbert.
Yes.
And what is your question for me this morning? How does it feel being behind the camera? So being behind the camera is kind of interesting because, so you guys know how you're watching me right now, right? I get nervous talking in front of people. Isn't that weird? Because I talk to a camera all day long, but when I'm in the studio, it's literally just me sitting in front of the camera. There's no one else around. I wear something called an earpiece. And so in my earpiece, my producer is talking to me, but she's in another room. So the producer is not even around. So talking in front of people makes me really nervous because I typically only talk to a camera. So just like this, I would be talking to a camera and there's no one else around. It's completely silent. Does anyone get nervous talking in front of people? Raise your hand if you get nervous talking in front of people. Can I tell you guys a little secret about me? I hated public speaking. In fact, when I was in college, I took public speaking and I failed that class. I failed public speaking, but guess what? That didn't stop me because now I pretty much talk in public because I do it through a TV. So if you've ever failed a class, I want you guys to know that don't let that stop you. That doesn't mean that you can't do, what you intend to do with your life. Has anyone ever gotten a bad grade in a class? What was the class? Tell me. Math, science, what was it? Science. You know what? I also didn't do very good in science. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but here we are today. Does that answer your question? Thank you so much. Who is next? What is your name? David, what is your question for me today?
What are your future plans and what is your dream job?
That's a good question. So my dream job is to continue to do what I've been doing. So I like anchoring. So anchoring is when when you watch the news and there's the person at the desk in the studio. And then reporting is the person that goes out into the field. And that's usually the reporter that you see out doing all of the things, interviewing people out on the scene. So my dream job is to continue to do both because part of being a reporter is being a storyteller. Do you guys know what a storyteller is? Yes. So one of the big parts of being a reporter is being a storyteller, but being a reporter makes you a better anchor. So my dream job is to continue to do what I do. And what was the other part of your question? My future plans. That's a great question. I haven't put much thought into that. I think I enjoy what I do now. So I don't always like to think about what I'm going to be doing later, if that makes sense. Not to say that I don't have goals, but I really enjoy what I do now. This is kind of my goal. Does that answer your question? Thank you so much. Do you guys have goals set? Yeah, what are some of your goals? Yell them out to me.
I ready goals, PNP goals, right?
Oh.
What else?
Get to a 5th grade reading level goals. Who has those? Yeah. It's really important to have goals, and I feel like that has helped me in my career a lot. So I encourage you all to set goals because I remember setting a goal of wanting to be an anchor. And here I am today. I get to do this all, full time. What is your name? Isabel? Yeah. Isabel, what is your question for me today?
What was the first story you covered?
First story that I covered on TV. Okay, so the first story that I covered was actually a really, really sad story. Can I share the story with you guys? Or maybe No.
Yes.
If it's questionable, I would say no.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to share that story, but how about I share the most recent story that I got? So most recently, I'm sorry. It's not a totally appropriate
So I
story.
think that this
Yeah.
is important that sometimes jobs are hard, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you have to cover stories that hurt your heart or make you feel sad. So that's work, right? It's not always rainbows and sunshine, but we do the job that we have to do, and we really look to the positive and the happy stories. So that's what she's going to share with you is one of the most recent stories.
Yes. So one of the most recent stories that I actually did was a Hispanic Heritage Month story. And I interviewed a teacher at Spanish River High School in Boca Raton. Have you guys heard of Spanish River? So they have this program, and it was started by the teacher because he knew that a lot of students that went to school there wanted a group to be part of. So do you guys have clubs and groups here? Some groups? So there was a club that he started. It started out with just 10 students, and it grew to 250 students. So every Hispanic Heritage Month, they put together an incredible program, and I wish I could show you because they did an awesome dance. And guess what some of the music that they danced to was? Do you guys love Bad Bunny? So they did this really cool dance to Bad Bunny, and it was the high schoolers, and they had food, and it was an awesome party. And I got to show the teacher and share his story with our viewers. So you guys love Bad Bunny, huh? Oh, someone's singing over there. What's your favorite Bad Bunny song? Who was singing? Someone was singing over there. Thank you so much, Isabel.
Okay, our friend here has a question, and he'd like to ask you in Spanish.
Okay, yes. ¿Cómo te llamas? Anthony. ¿Y cuál es tu pregunta?
¿Cuánto tiempo debes de ir a la escuela?
¿Cuánto tiempo tenías que ir a la escuela? Okay, do you guys want to answer in Spanish or English?
Both.
Buena pregunta. Bueno, yo fui al colegio y después de la secundaria fui a la universidad. Estudié por 4 años y medio en la universidad y después me gradué con todas mis clases y ahora soy una periodista. 4 años y medio en la universidad. Mucho tiempo, ¿verdad? Sí, mucho tiempo. ¿Y qué tú quieres ser?
Quiero ser bombero.
Bombero. Ok, buena carrera. Y creo que hay un poco de estudios con eso. ¿Y estás listo para todo eso? Sí. ¿Quién quiere ser bombero también? Oh, unos bomberos acá. Es buena carrera. Gracias por tu pregunta.
We have a follow-up question over here.
Okay.
She wanted to know, what schools did you go to? What school did you go to?
Okay. Great question. So I graduated from Georgia Southern University, and that's in South Georgia. Who asked that question over here? What was your name? I couldn't hear you. What was it? Evangeline. Yes. So I graduated from Georgia Southern University. It took me 4.5 years to go and get my degree in print journalism, but I did it. I know 4.5 years sounds like a long time, doesn't it? 4.5 years sounds like a long time, but it went by so quickly. College was my favorite part of school. I got to learn so much, and I got to learn so much about myself, and I made so many different friends. So I loved college. Are you guys, who wants to go to college? Who has a goal of going to college? Yeah? That's a great goal. Do you think you want to stay here in South Florida, or do you want to go to a different part of Florida to go to college? Or you guys haven't thought that far? A different state over here. Well, all I have to say is college was amazing, and I cannot recommend it enough. Okay, tell me your name. Dylan? And Dylan, what is your question for me today?
All your favorite job was your favorite and why?
All of my favorite jobs, what was my favorite and why? My favorite job is actually the one I do right now because I get to meet so many different people in our community. Today, this is what my job looked like. So my job looks different every single day. which is exciting because you never know what the day holds. So do you guys think that you like structure or not structure as part of your day? Structure? Well, there is some structure to my job, but every day looks a little bit different. So some days I get to come to an elementary school to talk. Other days I'm in the studio doing the news. Some days I'm in the field reporting on, something sad, but other days I'm in the field reporting on something happy, like when I got to meet all of those great students who did that Bad Bunny dance. So every day is a little bit different. So that's my favorite job. Thank you so much for your question.
And a follow-up to that question.
Okay. What is your name?
Amalia,
Amalia. And what is your question?
how long have you been a reporter?
How long have I been a reporter? Okay, if I tell you guys, you're gonna go, I've been a reporter for 10 years. Do I look that old? No? I know. Well, I've been a reporter for 10 years. So 10 years ago, I graduated from college. How old am I? I'm almost 33. I look young? Thank you. It's the Hispanic in me. It keeps me young. Great question. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I learned today that through your job, you get to bring the community together. That failure sometimes can make you stronger. It happens, right? Sometimes we run into obstacles and we have to figure out ways to overcome those obstacles. And this was my favorite. You can do hard things. Even when things get tough, you have the persistence that you can certainly do hard things. So I have a question for you to finish it all off. What advice do you have for our fourth graders?
My best advice for all of you is number one, never stop learning. Never stop learning. Even if you learn one new thing, even the smallest thing, never stop learning. My next piece of advice, and I said this earlier this morning, is never stop asking questions. There is no such thing as a dumb question. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Ask every question. I learn things because I never stop asking questions. So those are two of my biggest pieces of advice, is never stop learning and never stop asking questions, because it makes you so much smarter when you know how things work. So those are my big pieces of advice. Do you guys enjoy this whole talk to this morning? Yes, I really enjoyed meeting all of you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I inspired some of you maybe to consider journalism in the future.